basically between the floor and his leg, which is more or less, I guess you could say, a 45-degree angle there off to the side. So if we switch, Lance, would you switch for me? If you switch, you'd see my knee here is angled up. It's definitely not down low. This would not give me much power versus a driving opponent. I need to have that leg angled up. With our arms, we need an elbow deep rather than a wrist deep. Wrist deep, we will definitely go and get our training partner's leg initially with a wrist grip. But when we get shin to shin, what we really are looking for is this elbow deep position. I also want you to keep in mind that his knee should be almost stuck on my chest. It's not going to be that way all the time, but my goal is to constantly be pulling his knee to my chest. Or very close to that point. Now, let's get back to the discussion of pulling rather than just sitting here, okay? Here's what I need to do. I'm going to be pulling with my upper body and pushing with my inside leg. When we're discussing shin to shin no-gi, which is the first part of our tutorial here, I don't need a foot on the thigh. When we're talking about the gi, I'm going to have my foot based on that thigh just to give me a few more options. Without the gi, we're able to cut right to the chase because the lack of grip is a big difference on what my right leg will be doing and what your leg will be doing as well. So with my upper body, I am constantly pulling. With my right leg, the center leg, it's in between his leg, and it is pushing. My job is to pull, push, and literally pull my training partner up onto me, okay? Which is going to set up all of our attacks on double legs, on singles, on leg entries, etc., etc. But why do we need all this? Why do I need an elbow deep? Why do I need my hook flexed up? Why do I need my knee at that angle? It's really because once I've established my goal, if you notice Lance's posture here is very good. If he rides that wave, I have a knee sitting on the center of my chest, but you can clearly hear that I'm talking to you with very little stress. The reason I'm talking to you with very little stress is because I can elevate the weight up off of my chest using these scenarios. There's zero space between my armpit versus a wrist deep, which we'll go over and I'll show you momentarily, but there's zero space. It allows me to hold this knee tight. Meanwhile, I can keep his weight off of me with a very good active hook and a closed knee. So I want to make sure that you are constantly pulling someone onto you. And it is an aggressive pull. I don't just lean. We are pulling because you're going to get all of your attacks based on that pull, which we'll dive into here shortly. Let's discuss quickly why you want to use an elbow deep rather than a wrist deep. This is a very, very important scenario that could happen. If I get a wrist deep here, it's going to leave a massive amount of space between my armpit and my leg. And if I switch with Lance, what can happen when there's a wrist deep is that I can simply make an underhook. I can drive my body forward. I can put my head on the mat, and all of a sudden, I start my floating passing. It's just a formality that even if Lance's leg is up here, it's a formality that I push the leg out, I rework my hook, and all of a sudden, I'm in a knee-cutting scenario. So if you find yourself in a knee-cut scenario from shin to shin, just check one thing. Check to see if you're wrist deep when you're in the seated position or if you're elbow deep in the seated position. Most likely you are wrist deep, and it leaves a massive space for your training partner to dig their elbow deep in and start driving. And that will literally be the demise of your shin to shin. And you could then think, my shin to shin doesn't work. It's not a good guard. And that's specifically just because you were wrist deep instead of elbow deep. So check that off of your list if that scenario is happening. And to just recall, we're always pulling, and we're always pushing with our inside leg. Let's get ready to get into some great techniques now. All right, we'll discuss a little bit of the theme of when do we pull versus when do we spin? I'm a big believer in pulling, as I mentioned on a previous video. And why is that? Why it sets up a majority of our offense. And because what spinning could look like. It can be good. It can be used for a reason. I'm going to discuss why I would want you to use spinning on shin to shin versus pulling, although it is very limited. So if Lance's legs are quite wide, okay, this would be an ideal time where we could spin. Now, again, there are different gi techniques than no gi techniques. So when I'm discussing the first part of our tutorial, I'm going to be discussing with you the various no-gi strategies and tactics with shin to shin. When we put the gis on later, you will notice that there are more things that I can do, and that's when spinning it can be much more beneficial. But right now, make no mistake, with no gi, I'm adamant that number one, we should be pulling. And I'll explain to you exactly why. With no gi, when